Let me describe a moment that might feel uncomfortably familiar. It's 2 days before payday. You check your account, not because you're budgeting, not because you're investing, but because you're hoping nothing unexpected hits before Friday. And when you see the number, you don't feel angry. You feel tight, like one small expense could unravel everything. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you have just $400 saved for an emergency, you're already financially ahead of roughly one-third of Americans, according to Federal Reserve data. $400, that's not wealth. That's a tire and maybe groceries. Yet millions of people don't have it. So the real question isn't, why aren't people rich? It's deeper. Why are so many people stuck? Why are so many hardworking, intelligent, decent people constantly broke? Here's the thing. Being broke is rarely about intelligence. It's rarely about potential. And it's not always about income. It's about patterns. It's about identity. It's about structure. My name is David, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, wealth, and how stewardship actually compounds over time. If you're someone who works hard, loves God, tries to be responsible, but still feels like money slips through your hands faster than it grows, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Now let's get honest. Most people assume, if I just made more money, I wouldn't be broke. Look, income matters, but here's what most people don't realize. Plenty of people making $80,000 stay broke. Plenty of people making $45,000 build stability, because broke is not just a math problem, it's a pattern problem. And today, I want to walk through the real reasons most people stay broke and how you avoid becoming one of them. Here's the thing. You cannot build toward what you cannot see. If I asked you right now, what exact number are you trying to hit this year? Most people couldn't answer. They want more. They want comfortable. They want secure. That's not a goal. That's a feeling. And feelings don't compound. Clarity does. Scripture says, write the vision and make it plain. Why? Because direction determines discipline. If your goal is be debt-free in 3 years, now you have a target. If your goal is save $10,000 by next December, now your daily decisions have context. Without goals, every purchase feels harmless. With goals, every purchase has weight. Now you might be thinking, David, I don't like obsessing over numbers. It's not obsession, it's orientation. Even Jesus spoke in terms of counting the cost before building, because movement without direction is just motion. Let's go back to that $400 statistic. According to the Federal Reserve, roughly one-third of Americans could not cover a $400 emergency without borrowing or selling something. AAA reports that the average car repair often runs $500 to $600. So one mechanical issue can trigger credit card debt. And here's what most people don't realize. The first emergency isn't the problem. It's the interest afterward. You swipe $600 at 22% interest. Now you're paying for that mistake for months, sometimes years. And here's where psychology kicks in. When you're living without a buffer, your nervous system never fully relaxes. You operate in survival mode. Dispenza would say your body becomes conditioned to stress. Watts would say you are fighting reality instead of flowing with it. Jesus would say you're building on sand instead of rock. An emergency fund is not just financial, it's psychological margin. It moves you from reacting to responding panic to prudence. And once you build 3 to 6 months of expenses, something changes. You stop asking, what if something goes wrong? And start asking, what can I build next? I know, the word budget feels restrictive, but here's what budgeting actually is. Awareness. According to U.S. bank surveys, only about 40% of Americans consistently follow a budget, which means most people don't know where their money actually goes. Have you ever been paid, made normal purchases, and 2 weeks later thought, where did it all go? That's not a mystery. That's a lack of measurement. What gets measured improves. What gets ignored leaks. Budgeting isn't punishment, it's light, and light reveals. Here's what most people don't realize. When you track spending, your behavior changes automatically. You don't need motivation, you need visibility. Now this is where people get defensive. Some say, I want to enjoy life now. I don't want to save until I'm 70. Fair. But here's the thing. You don't have to choose between joy now and freedom later. You choose balance. Compounding is not about sacrificing your youth. It's about protecting your future. Let's do simple math. If you invest $500 per month starting at 25 and earn an 8% return, by 65, you could have roughly $1.5 million. Wait until 35 to start? You'd have about $700,000. 10 years cost you $800,000. Time is leverage, and Scripture teaches long obedience in one direction. Compounding rewards consistency, not intensity. They have expensive habits. This one stings because expensive habits don't feel expensive. A pack-a-day smoker at $7 per pack spends over $2,500 per year. That's $200 per month. Invest $200 per month at 8% for 30 years, roughly $300,000. Eating out 4 times a week at $50 per meal, that's $800 per month, nearly $10,000 per year. And here's what most people don't realize. You don't go broke from one big purchase, you go broke from unconscious repetition. Abraham Hicks talks about momentum. Momentum works for your habits too. Small leaks sink ships. Not all debt is equal. Borrowing to buy a cash-flowing rental property is different from financing a depreciating vehicle. But most debt is consumption debt. Cars, clothes, vacations, credit cards. Let's talk about cars for a second. Kelley Blue Book reports new cars can lose about 20% of their value in the first year. That's wealth evaporating. And AAA estimates total vehicle ownership costs can approach $1,000 per month. That's $12,000 per year. Invest $12,000 per year at 8% for 30 years. You're looking at over $1.3 million. Now you might be thinking, so I can't have a nice car? You can, but understand the trade-off. Rich people earn interest. Broke people pay it. They spend to impress. Dave Ramsey says people buy things they don't need with money. They don't have to impress people they don't like. And he's right. Why? Because identity is powerful. Neville Goddard would say you live from the state you believe you are. If you believe you need external validation, you'll buy it. But that feeling fades. Payments don't. Jesus warned about storing treasure where moth and rust destroy. Translation? External validation decays. Internal discipline compounds. They don't pay themselves. This might be the most important one. Most people spend first and save what's left, which is usually nothing. Paying yourself first means investing before spending, automating before debating. If $500 automatically moves to investments on payday, you adjust your lifestyle around what remains. If it sits in checking, it evaporates. Here's what most people don't realize. Wealth is built by automation, not by willpower. The real reason most people are broke, it's not because they're evil, it's not because they're cursed, it's because small, repeated decisions compound. The average broke person has no clear goal, has no emergency buffer, doesn't track spending, lives in the present only, carries bad debt, spends to impress, doesn't invest automatically. None of those individually ruin you. Together, they form a pattern, and patterns create outcomes. But here's the good news. Patterns can change, identity can shift, and compounding works in both directions. Start building margin, start building clarity, start building consistency, not emotionally, structurally, because faith without structure becomes wishful thinking, and structure without faith becomes dry discipline. But together, they build freedom. Look, you're not broke because you're incapable. You're broke if you've been undirected, undisciplined, unaware. But that's fixable. And if this message stirred something in you, don't just watch it, act on it. Hit the like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, which pattern are you breaking first? Because faithful stewards don't drift, they decide. And when you decide differently, your life compounds differently, and it works.